And Happy New Year, everybody. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Out to our friend, nationally syndicated talk show host, Lars Larson. Good to have you with us. Happy New Year, Lars.
Happy New Year to you, Kevin, and to everyone who listens on KIDO.
Boy, you take a look at this. The government shut down. Have you missed the government?
No, I haven't. And now I know there are some spot examples, and they're weird. Can I give you one from the holidays? We have some friends who have a condominium on Mount Hood, and I don't go skiing much anymore. I'm afraid of breaking things, and I'm not that good anyway. So we went up to hang out with them for a few days during the holidays, and my friend said he had to run up to Timberline Lodge, which was built during the socialist administration of FDR, to pick up his kids who'd been skiing all day. The trip is usually about 15 minutes, even with snow. It took him 7.5 hours. A weird example that apparently the Forest Service, which owns that little 7-mile stretch of land, and usually has officers out ticketing people and pulling them over if they don't have the right traction tires and chains and all that, was not there. And neither were the folks who spread the sand and gravel. And so it was a mess. And, there's a small example where, so I'll give them that. But other than that, the majority of what the federal government does, 75% of it is still funded, and the Democrats can come around on this and agree to funding the rest of the government if they'll simply sit down and negotiate. In fact, I heard this morning CBS radio was saying that Democrats had been invited to the White House by the president to talk about ways to end this by funding the wall. And the CBS take on it was, we'll see if the president is willing to negotiate. The president has been willing to negotiate since before Christmas. It's the Democrats who have said, whatever he's for, we're against it. And this includes Democrats in top leadership, Kevin, who you know have previously said they favored funding a wall. They have said so. We've got tape of them saying it. Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton. You go right down the list. They're all in favor of funding a wall until it was Trump's idea. And this is this weird dynamic that I don't think Americans or any reasonable person would accept. Imagine, I like to take this down to the family level. Imagine your family, gets together from time to time to decide where the family should go to get for a family reunion. And some member of the family who is just perhaps despised by half of the family comes up with the idea that is the perfect idea for that kind of thing. And because it comes from him or her, the rest of the family who despises him simply says, no, we're not going there. I don't care how inexpensive it is. I don't know how much sense it makes. I don't care how much fun it would be. We're not doing it because the idea is coming from him. Now, most people would look at that and say, that's not a reasonable way to go through life. And yet, that's precisely what they're doing. The American public wants the wall. Support for the wall is more than 60% as part of border security. The American public chose a president who made the wall a signature piece of his campaign, not one of 50 or 60 items that he said he was in favor of. This was the signature piece of his campaign. And I'd point out to you, Kevin, while I'm a conservative first and a Republican second, name the last Republican major party candidate for any major office who had the guts to come out and say we need to build a border wall. It's usually the minor ones, but the majors, they stay away from it. And it's not reasonable. This country deserves good border security. There is no way to secure that border without a physical barrier. I would point out that since the terrorist attacks of 9/11, now coming up on 18 years ago this September, 18 major countries have built major barriers, some of them hundreds of miles long, to keep terrorists out, and to guard their country. And Europe found out what happens when you don't have barricades. You get an onslaught of refugees, some of them legit and many of them not, who simply invade your country. You lose control. Everybody listening to this broadcast, including, I'm sure, Kevin, I know you have a diverse audience, liberal Democrats, go to bed at night and they lock their car and they lock their front door. And many of them have a fence around their house. And when they go to work, they usually have to have a key or an electronic pass or a code to be able to get into work. In fact, many of them probably have a locked office and locked office desk drawers. Why? Because of security. A great country deserves the same. And there's no reason not to build it. And when people question the cost, I think reasonably you could do it for $30 billion. But let's say it went to $40 billion and it lasts the next 100 years. That means its annual cost to us doesn't even begin to compare with what the average person spends on a good deadbolt out of their income for the front door of their house. So these Democrats will sit down with the president, and if the press was doing its job, they would say the president's willing to negotiate, but the Democrats refuse to negotiate. And they haven't even so much as said, look, he wants $5 billion. We don't want to give him anything. Why don't we split the difference, call it $2.5 billion, put the government back in action, and fund half of what he wants? I'm not saying Donald Trump would accept that, but what I'm pointing out is the unwillingness to negotiate by even offering that much. And I think they should be called to account for it.
Our great friend Lars Larson joining us, KIDO Talk Radio. Catch him tonight at 6. And as you point out, Lars, Schumer and Pelosi, they want to humiliate the president. They want to destroy any type of credibility that he has by destroying his signature move by saying, no, we're not going to negotiate. You're not going to get a wall. You're not going to get border security, because they've lost against him on everything else.
Yep, they have, and they haven't accomplished anything over the last 2 years. The Republicans have accomplished a lot. I won't say we've accomplished enough, but I say we've accomplished a lot. Can you name a major accomplishment of the Democrats? And I will point out to you, Kevin, there is one thing that I'm forced to admire about the Democrat Party. They manage to get things done oftentimes even when they are in the minority, and they've done it over the years. Tell me something the Democrats have actually accomplished over the last 2 years other than telling everyone how much they hate Donald Trump and everything he stands for. And a lot of the things that they are against are things that the average American would have to say, I'm for that. Would you like to pay less in federal income taxes on your income? I don't know many Americans who say, oh, no, I wish I could pay more, because the ones who want to do that can write a check anytime they want. So we get major tax reform. We got rid of the most objectionable parts of Obamacare. The economy is back on track. And for all the wailing and moaning about the stock market, I'd remind you, I haven't seen the latest numbers this morning. I know it was down a little bit, but it's about 4,000 or 5,000 points higher than it was 2 years ago when Donald Trump took office. I think that on Election Day it was 18,000 or so. By the time he took office, it was 19,000 or so. It's now 23, 24,000. So while it's dropped back a bit for last year, the overall gains are tremendous. And ask the average American if they like the fact that wages are now going up, that employment is so full there are literally 7 million open jobs as we're sitting here talking right now. So anyone who actually wants a job can get one. And anyone who says, well, I don't have much in the way of skills, I've always found the best way to get a job and to advance is to get the job you have the skills for today, and then tell your boss, I want to learn how to do more. And most bosses love that. I know I do. I want all the 3 people who are my employees, I want them to advance. And I want them, in fact, I hate losing employees. I lost a couple of great employees last year, but I replaced them with a couple of great employees. And do I assume that I'm going to hang on to those people forever? No. Why? Not because I don't want to. I'd love to have them stay with me for the rest of my career till I'm like 80 or 90 or so, and I decide to hang it up. Right. But if you are hiring people that no one else is interested in, you're probably hiring the wrong people. So if you want a job and you say, but I can't get the job I want, get the job that you can get that has the potential to lead to the job that you want, and you will get to that job. There are very few bosses out there who will not reward a hardworking, learning employee who says, I want to learn how to do more and better for you. And if someday that boss, I usually get the question, well, what happens when that boss decides he doesn't need to reward you? Then you move down the road to another boss who does. And if you're valuable and if you have skills, then you are never going to run out of people who want to hire you if you're willing to work hard. And so you grab the job that you can get now, and then you start training for the next job. And that next job may be with the current employer you have, or maybe it was someone else. And if every boss lived in fear, and I live in fear that I'm going to lose good people. But I understand that because I've hired good people and because they work hard at their jobs and they work hard at learning, they're likely to want to move on to another job at some point. If you find an unappreciative boss, I don't think unappreciative bosses keep their jobs for very long. Because when the folks above them, and there's always somebody above them, looks down and says, why is it that Kevin down there keeps losing good employees? Well, every time one of his employees learns a new set of skills, Kevin tells him, I'm not giving you a raise and you're not going to move up in the organization, and people get tired of it and they leave. Guess what's going to happen to you? You are going to get the next pink slip from a smart boss. And if you're not working for smart bosses, you should be finding a smart boss.
Lars Larson joining us. Career advice today on KIDO Talk Radio. Catch him tonight at 6. Okay, Lars, let's get to, here's another Kevin Miller softball for you.
All right.
2 words, Mitt Romney.
Oh, how about pond scum? This guy, I was so mad at him because he has been a turncoat rhino for his entire career. He's gone a lot of places. He's been a governor. He's been a presidential candidate, and not a very good presidential candidate, a failed presidential candidate. And I prefer people who win elections rather than losing elections. And to some extent, a bit gutless. Do you remember the thing that probably the media is probably right did torpedo his presidential aspirations to some extent was when he made some comments about the 47% of Americans who pay no federal income taxes. None. Zero. They work, they get a paycheck, they pay zero in federal income taxes. Many of them actually get a check. That's a dirty secret that a lot of Americans don't realize, is that if you are one of those people who doesn't try to aspire to a better job at some point, and you don't make a big paycheck or even a decent paycheck, the federal government, through the Earned Income Tax Credit, actually sends you a check and rewards you for being unambitious. Now, I'm not talking about people who are physically disabled, mentally disabled, or otherwise. I'm talking about the person who gets rewarded by our tax system and gets a check. They pay no taxes, and they get a check for, in some cases, thousands of dollars back for their family for being unsuccessful. How would we build a great country like this if we said, let's reward people for being unsuccessful? Does that resonate with anyone? Do you think the coach of the local, either a Boise College football team or high school football teams at the local high schools say, well, that kid who doesn't try very hard and he rides the bench a lot and he doesn't have any particular set of skills nor the desire to get those skills, let's give him some playing time. Let's put him in at a critical moment in the game. Nobody does that. They say you perform or you ride the bench, and everyone has the opportunity to perform. Some come with more native talent. Some come with less. But you and I both know that some of the biggest heroes in sports are folks who've worked hard despite their limitations. So I would like to see people get out and try. And Mitt Romney, who takes the president's support, gets the seat he wanted, and then turns right back around and stabs him in the back. Maybe Donald Trump should be tweeting out, A2, Mitt.
Lars Larson joining us. It's going to be an interesting 2 years, don't you think?
It's going to be a fascinating 2 years, livened up by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the gift that keeps on giving. The woman does not know when to stop talking or moaning about her troubles. Now that she's collecting, as of tomorrow, she starts collecting her $15,000 per month paycheck as a member of Congress, a job for which she is woefully unprepared. And then, of course, Pocahontas, who popped a beer in the kitchen and drank a beer so she could show what a regular gal she is. This Harvard law professor, now U.S. Senator from Massachusetts, who is, it appears clear, she announced over the weekend she's forming an exploratory committee, and she's going to run for president. I think Hillary is going to run as well. And it is going to be an absolute clown car full of Democrats.
Lars, we so appreciate it. Can't wait to hear you tonight at 6. Have a great one,
It is
sir.
a pleasure. Kevin, you have a wonderful, happy New Year, and to you and all of your listeners, really a great 2019.
Thank you, Lars. Have a good one. See you.
Take care now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, your thoughts next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. And rolling right along, Happy New Year, Doug in Mountain Home. Good morning.
Good morning, Kevin. How are you? Did you make it through the new year?
I did. We're back.
Yeah. Oh, I just got a couple questions. I was just listening to you talking with Lars, and I do like Lars Larson's. But talking about people that don't pay income tax and get a check, what is he referring to? Because all my life, I ain't made a lot of money, but the federal government takes taxes out of my check every payday. Every payday. And most of every year's, I get a tax return check back. Now, is that what he's talking about? People that are freaking like lazy or whatever he was talking about?
No, he's talking about people that don't work, but they get a check.
Oh, okay. God, you're playing the system, huh? The other thing is about Mitt Romney. What did he do?
What did Mitt Romney do? He wrote an op-ed today criticizing the president.
He did what?
He wrote an editorial criticizing the president.
Oh, really? Yeah, well, I could say something, but I can't say it on air about him.
Actually,
So
hold
I
on.
won't.
Let's let the professional answer this. Let's go to Rachel Sutherland here, and we'll get the latest.
All right, thanks.
An op-ed for the Washington Post. Romney writes that President Trump has not risen to the mantle of the office. And while the former presidential contender praises the president for tax reform and appointing conservative judges, he criticizes him for his tone, writing, "With a nation so divided, resentful, and angry, presidential leadership and qualities of character is indispensable. And it is in this province where the incumbent's shortfall has been most glaring," adding, "The world is watching." In Washington, Rachel Sutherland, Fox News.
So there you have it. He said the president was a bad president.
Yeah, okay. Like I said, I could say some things, but I can't say it on air, so I won't.
That doesn't really help the
But-
cause, though, when you go public with that. And let's face it, the media hated Mitt Romney, and now they're going to fall in love with him. He might be the new John McCain.
So, yeah, exactly. I mean, anyway, I'm not going to go there, but the other thing about the Democratic presidential candidates, Hillary Clinton running, that sounds just exactly like what the Democrat Party is. Stupid. I mean, you can be a murderer, you can be a robber, you can be a thief, you can be anything and have all the allegations against you and all the proof that's against her, and she's going to run again for president. What does that tell you, Democrats? Kevin, I just don't get that party anymore. But these rhino Republicans, I don't get them. As far as I'm concerned, they're Democrats. So thanks, and keep up the good work. And I hope you Democrats quit smoking pot and maybe get your brain cells back. Goodbye.
Bye. Traffic and weather together, 107.5 FM.
I'm just Channel 7's Eric Everett.
Let's go to the phones. And we wish a happy new year to Liberal Steve on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning.
Good morning, Idaho. May you have a great 2019, Idaho. The best ever. And a lot of good topics today starting out, some of your calls. Hank was a little, I don't know. But let's, Trump, this could be the year he could turn things around if he would just stop his lying. I mean, come on. The other day he said ex-President Obama had a 10-foot wall around his house in Washington, D.C. That was fake. He doesn't even have a wall.
No, he
You see
has
his
a
house
wall.
from the
I've
street.
seen it.
Yeah, but you can see his house from the street. He doesn't have a wall all the way around, which was a big lie. And now Homeland Security is shut down with this federal government shutdown thing. So he was saying we got to keep our borders safe, we got to have the wall, but yet Homeland Security isn't even working. He's telling about the 10 terrorists that were coming into the country. So the guy has got, and then the zoo in Washington, D.C. is shut down. that's got almost close to 3,000 animals in it. And,
It's a nice
I
zoo.
guess the word,
I've been there. It's a nice zoo. I've been there.
yeah, and it's shut down. So I think that's probably got Trump bothered, because if the zoo's shut down, nobody can get in to see him. Oh, I'm sorry, Donnie. I'll take it back. I'll tweet that I was just kidding, But and then your marijuana thing, Mothers for Marijuana, you were talking about that. Interesting fact, Miller. I think Simplot. This is just what I think. I think Simplot will be the first one to open a hemp processing plant in the state of Idaho here within the next couple of years. I'm just guessing that. I'm thinking that out loud. Probably could happen, may not happen, but if it does happen, it's funny how that got passed, isn't it? That it's going to be okay to grow that now. Also, my buddies in real estate and land opportunities across the United States tell me that Eastern Oregon, his phone is ringing off the hook with Idahoans that want to retire in Eastern Oregon. They're looking for condos and apartments in Ontario and
well, besides Ontario, really, what is in Eastern Oregon? It's a lot of desert.
You have a lot of beautiful towns up and down the line. You got beautiful Jordan Valley. You got Adrian. You got, what's that, Nissa? Is it Nissa, Oregon, over there?
They have a Walmart in Nissa?
Why? You need a place to sleep? Oh, I'm sorry, Kevin. I've said to myself, I'm not going to slam you anymore, and I'm not going to go after Liberty Linda or Max or Pete or that nutcase you just had on before I got on.
Well, Terry just said, have you ever called in and not been critical of someone else?
I don't know. I have a list. You know me, Miller. I record absolutely everything. In fact, I sent you a recording of one of our friends the other day that used to call into your show all the time. But I have, I think, pretty close to 650 critical things that Terry has emailed to you that you have read over the air. 650. Just like I keep track of Trump's lies. He's got over 5,000 going on now. But I think 2019 is going to be the best year ever for the United States of America. I truly feel that. I know it's going to happen. So I want everybody out there to stay fired up. And your show will probably hang in there.
Probably. Could go either way, but thank you for that.
And Happy New Year, and you stay fired up.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Oh, Kevin.
You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie.
Good morning, Kevin.
And we go live to Washington, D.C. John Decker joining us, Fox News Radio. John, good morning.
Hey, good morning to you. How are you doing today, Kevin? Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you. Boy, it's going to be an interesting day when we think about the shutdown, the Situation Room, the new Congress, a lot going on where you're at.
Well, there is this afternoon, big meeting that will take place on day 12 of the partial government shutdown. This meeting with the president and congressional leaders from both parties, different than when the last time the president met with congressional leaders here at the White House. It was just Democrats, just Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. And, of course, we remember the video of what happened when they met in the Oval Office. This meeting, Kevin, is going to take place in the Situation Room here at the White House. The idea is trying to come to some sort of agreement, some sort of compromise to reopen the government. But as you know, the president insisting that any compromise, any budget deal must include funding for that border wall with Mexico, and Democrats have said that is a non-starter.
We take a look at now that we're back from the holidays, John. How long do you think this will go on?
Good question. I don't know the answer to that. I think that things will move in a certain direction starting tomorrow. The first order of business, once Democrats hit the floor of the House, will be passing a funding bill. They'll send it over to the Senate, and then it will be up to Mitch McConnell as to whether or not he'll take up that bill. As you may recall, just before the partial government shutdown, the Senate unanimously, Democrats and Republicans, passed a clean continuing resolution which would fund the government through February, but the president said he wouldn't support it because it didn't include that funding for the border wall with Mexico. So there are a lot of moving parts right now as it relates to what comes next for reopening the federal government.
You know, we go down to this, and we have the Mitt Romney op-ed today. The president already reacting on Twitter. I don't know. Times are changing. I don't know really how to address that. Your thoughts on how the president will react verbally, not just digitally, to Mitt Romney?
Well, he's already reacted in terms of a Twitter post. He's criticized Mitt Romney, told him essentially to act like a team player, even getting criticism from the head of the RNC. And the head of the RNC is actually related to Mitt Romney. She criticized Mitt Romney. So we know which side of this argument she comes out on. It's going to be interesting. You know, Mitt Romney will actually be sworn in as the next U.S. Senator from Utah. That will take place, I believe, tomorrow. And this is his first order of business, putting out this op-ed in which he was very critical of the president.
Yeah, we'll see. John, anything else we should be looking out for? I guess between that and the new Congress, it won't be a dull moment for you for quite some time.
No, it's going to be an interesting year. 2019 will be, not only with this immediate issue of funding the federal government, but also the Mueller investigation. I think that some of those moving parts will come together in 2019, and I think we'll be, covering that pretty extensively throughout the year. So, yes, a lot going on. There's no doubt about it.
John, again, Happy New Year, and have a great one. Great to have you back, and look forward to your reports, sir.
I'm glad to be back. It's good to talk to you, Kevin. Always great to be on your show, and I wish you the best in 2019, and we'll talk real soon.
Okay. Take care, John. Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Let's go to James in Meridian with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, James.
Good morning, sir. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
I had a question. I don't know if you can answer it, but it was something I'm wondering about. President Trump was able to get a bill passed through the Republican House before the changeover, before the holidays, and then the Senate didn't vote on it, didn't pass it. My question is, when the new House and Senate take over tomorrow, the Senate will still be Republican. Is that bill still in play, or does it automatically go away as soon as the new House comes in?
New House comes in, I believe. Can
the Senate sign on it?
No, I believe that they'll have to redo everything because, again,
I wasn't sure.
Yeah, everything will be, as if it didn't happen.
That was my hope. I was my hope that, they got that bill through. Once his Republican Senate takes over, they can just vote on that since it was already started. It just got stalled. But shoot, that was my hope.
Well, I wish I had more hope for you, brother.
All right. Well, hopefully they can come up with something. We'll see how it goes. They can work it out, but I doubt it before tomorrow.
What do you make of the?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, James. Okay. Bye-bye. We're all just feeling ourselves out here. New year. Here's something that should get you going. Is Nancy Pelosi a nice person? Well, her daughter, who's a documentary filmmaker and something else, was on CNN. This is who Donald Trump is negotiating with.
Speaker Pelosi thinks about going in.
John, we had known you for 2 decades. Do you think I'm the person that's going to come on CNN and talk about my mother? Is that who you think I am?
I'm asking you, you are a fantastic political reporter. How does she approach meetings with President Trump, A? And B, just what are your feelings about this person who you know quite well becoming Speaker of the House for a second time?
She'll cut your head off and you won't even know you're bleeding. That's all you need to know about her. No one ever won betting against Nancy Pelosi. She's persevered. You got to give her credit. No matter what you think of her, you have to give her credit because think about it. Think about all those presidents she's endured, right? She was the Bush, the Clinton, she's been through it all.
Of course, she didn't talk about the Obama. But there you have it. Nancy Pelosi's daughter saying she'll cut your head off and you won't even know you're bleeding. Well, there's something to look forward to. Again, the beauty of President Trump is that he fights the Democrats. He beats the Democrats at their own game. Now, we're going to have to endure, and thank goodness that we've got Glenn Beck, we've got Sean, we've got Lars to give us the other side of the story. Because all we're going to hear from the media, and then you're going to have people going, what do you think? The government shutdown. You have to stand for principle. Maybe we'll see that in the state of Idaho as well. We talked about this earlier at 580-5436. The new legislature coming in, the new governor coming in. The grocery tax should be the first thing that goes. You want to make people happy in the state of Idaho? Show them something. Show them that Idaho is different from Washington. We've said that for quite some time, but it's time to show people, right? It's time to show people and say, look, here you go. We promised that we would repeal the grocery tax, and we're going to repeal the grocery tax. We promised we're going to balance the budget. Now, the big challenge, again, locally, and I promised we'll get to the Preston teacher here in a minute, is you have this $65 million that we've overspent. I don't know how that works. And one thing I love about talking with Dave Petzo about is numbers. Now, you have some people, maybe primarily, I guess they're in sales or they're accountants, that they think in numbers. You know, they can automatically tell you what a cost is if you buy a cup of coffee or if you buy a breakfast burrito every day, what that's going to cost you per month, per day, per year. And you're like, woo, my head's spinning. Right? They just think in numbers. And $60 million shortfall. Well, Kevin, there you go again, being negative. No, I'm being accurate. Right? I'm being accurate. $60 million shortfall. What did we do? What did we spend it on? I think that's a big issue. Is that going to be an excuse for people not to pay for the grocery tax? I hope not. But if you're a member of a certain political party, i.e. the Republican Party, it's pretty good for you because if you're aligned with certain interests, nothing seems to happen to you. Right? And then you have people say, well, we really don't need the grocery tax repeal. See, I'm fascinated not to attack people, but just to hear what they have to say. I am a Republican. I am a conservative. You know, that's the difference here. You know, myself, Sean, Lars, you know, we cheer for that team. So the reason or excuses not to do it will be something I believe that we'll be talking about for quite some time. We'll get your thoughts on that at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Coming up next, the Preston teacher accused of feeding a live puppy to a snapping turtle, goes on trial. Coming up, why is there a trial? Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Blessed to be with you. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Phone numbers 580-5436, 580-KIDO. As many of you know, and many of you are, I love the animals. In fact, I get along better with dogs and cats than I do with people. And I know what you're saying. Well, that explains the success or lack thereof of your career in this program, Kevin Miller. But in all seriousness, you know, animals give us such unconditional love. You know, there's a group in town, Row Painting, that actually they were looking for donations and to fund the Humane Society. And I thought that was just a wonderful move for the holidays, for the Christmas holidays, is to do stuff for our four-legged furry family members that give us such unconditional love. And in the world that we live in today, we all need unconditional love, right? It's such a blessing from God. So, a story that we brought you and blew up the phones, and hey, the phones are blowing up good, about this Preston, Idaho teacher, Mr. Crossland, who is beloved in Preston, Idaho, home of Napoleon Dynamite, who allegedly fed a live puppy or a dead puppy to a snapping turtle. And then reports came out, well, the puppy was sick, it was dead, it was this, that, or whatever. And then people said, well, you got to know the teacher there. He's a good teacher. He's beloved in the community. In fact, you have people saying the trial should be moved out of Preston, Idaho, just because you're not really going to get a fair trial because so many people think this teacher is a great guy. Now, for me, and again, we're not going to be less judgmental. We're going to be accurate. We're going to call it like we see it. At 580-5436, 580-KIDO. There is no, and I mean no, and maybe I'm just not a fan of biology and everything else when you dissect frogs and all that. There is no value in feeding a live puppy to a snapping turtle. And then you may or may not recall the story. The state came in and killed the snapping turtle because it wasn't native to Idaho, right? Think about that. Now there's going to be a trial in Preston. Why is this man going to court? Why not save us the national embarrassment? Really, just the national embarrassment of doing this? And what happens if he's acquitted? Pro-Life joins us now on KIDO Talk Radio.
Well, that's why they're going to have the trial down there in Preston, so that he will be acquitted. They want to show the world that that they think their teacher's okay, and what they did was all right. But I hope that it comes out in the trial and all of the publicity that the state did the wrong thing. They shouldn't have killed that turtle. That is really bad. And but you know, the fish and game people, they don't know what they're doing, and so that's no. He's going to. They want to have a jury of, you know, Franklin County. That's Preston. They want to have a jury down there because they know what the jury's going to say. So, and you know, that's the people that think that he was real bad that want to have it moved out of there so they can get it to, you know, maybe they should move it to Santa Cruz, California, and have the trial there, and then, you know, he'd be acquitted. I mean, he'd be convicted. But anyway.
Well, but back to this issue, you know, the defense seems to rotate. Well, he did it on school grounds, but it was after school. Well, he's beloved in the community. How about this? If you, apparently this teacher, he wants to send a message. I'm thinking about it. Why not spare us all, cop a plea, keep your job, and move on? And by the way, feeding a puppy to a live snapping turtle, that's misdemeanor animal cruelty. With all due respect, what is a felony animal cruelty in this state?
Probably nothing. You know,
you remember, what was it, 5-6 years ago, you had this animal rights group, and we did what we could to help them, not nearly enough. But these folks actually got enough petitions, and it wasn't like the usual petitions and referendum where there's like the subtle big money behind them. It was a grassroots effort to really tighten up animal laws in the state. And then you had people, primarily, I believe, the ranchers, that shut it down. You know, it would really strengthen Idaho's animal cruelty laws. You remember that?
Yeah, I remember that. And let's see, economically, if you can get away with mistreating your animals, it's economically better. And so, you know, these people, they're out for profit, and so they do misuse animals all over the place. But I mean, you know, factory animal farming is a misuse of animals right there. You know, the vegans have a good point. And so I don't know, people just have selfish kind of hearts, you know, that they will misuse animals and anybody, you know, to make a profit.
Well, he didn't make a profit. Obviously, he wants to prove his point, but you think to yourself, you know, sometimes in pro-life, you know this, in life and politics and everything else, you have to take one for the team and just stand down. But maybe he believes he did nothing wrong. Maybe he believes that it's okay to do this.
No, he's not going to do it again. They just want to show that it wasn't that big a deal, and that's what the trial will show. That's what I'm predicting.
That it wasn't that big of a deal. Was it big to you?
Yeah, I think it was a big deal. I think he should just admit, hey, I shouldn't have been doing that, and then, but they don't want to admit that down there. They used to have a bunch of mink farms down there. I used to live in the next county next to that down there, and so I know those kind of people. I lived right there with them, you know, and I mean, it's okay to abuse animals. That's just their culture. So anyway, I don't know what the... But, I mean, you know, you talk about abuse. Well, the ultimate abuse is what? The murder of the child inside the woman, and that's going on all over the place. So, I mean, if we're not going to straighten up in our own species, if we're not going to not murder our own babies for selfish reasons, well, then how can we ever say, what should we do about animals? I mean, we're not ever going to get that right. We take care of our own children.
Pro-Life, thank you for the call.
All right, we'll see you.
Blessed to be a part of your day. Don't forget Glenn Beck coming up. Keep it right here on KIDO Talk Radio. That's 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Well, let's get you to work safely and on time. Maybe.
I'm just Channel 7's Eric Everett.
And Kevin Miller in the morning here. We'll leave you with a final thought. Those of you that love Seattle, from the Seattle Times, Gene Balk, the FYI guy. How is this for irony? While we've been worried about Seattle becoming the next San Francisco, it turns out other cities have been worried about becoming the next Seattle. That's right. Seattleization is a thing now, at least according to the New York Times, which published an article last week. It described as a particularly dire diagnosis and characterized by high housing costs and tech wealth, a combination that's thoroughly transformed the city in an alarming short span of time. People say that perhaps New York City could be Seattle on steroids. Well, we need to worry about our beloved Treasure Valley, right? Because we see that happening here. And how do we stop that? Through prayer, through focus, and through proper God-loving engagement. Privilege, as always, to wake up with you on the right side each and every morning. Ray and Maya, great job. Folks, may God bless you and your family. Keep the faith. Glenn Beck is next. Good morning.